Have you ever wondered why the cost of everyday items sometimes jumps unexpectedly, and what impact that has on how much money people need to earn? It is a fascinating and crucial aspect of our economy, influencing everything from your grocery bill to your financial stability. Supply shocks can significantly contribute to wage spirals by first driving up the cost of goods and services. When the availability of key resources or products is suddenly reduced, or their production costs rise, businesses typically pass these higher expenses on to consumers as increased prices. In response, workers, seeing their purchasing power diminish, will then demand higher wages to maintain their living standards, which in turn can lead to businesses raising prices further, thus creating a continuous feedback loop. The core mechanism behind this begins with a supply shock, which is an unexpected event that causes a significant change in the supply of a commodity or service. This could be anything from a natural disaster disrupting agricultural output, to geopolitical events impacting energy prices, or even a global pandemic halting manufacturing. When these shocks occur, and supply cannot keep pace with demand, prices increase. This initial price increase erodes the real value of wages, meaning people can buy less with the same amount of money. To compensate, workers and their representatives push for higher wages. If these wage increases exceed productivity gains, businesses face higher labor costs, which they then factor into their pricing decisions, leading to another round of price hikes and subsequently further wage demands. This cycle builds on itself, creating the spiraling effect. Understanding this mechanism means recognizing the signs when external events begin to impact production and transportation costs. You can observe how these cost increases translate into higher prices at the store or gas pump. It also helps to explain why negotiation for pay raises often intensifies during periods of high inflation. For economic policymakers, breaking this cycle becomes a delicate balancing act, as interventions to curb inflation too aggressively might risk slowing down economic growth and potentially leading to job losses. This phenomenon is often described as cost-push inflation, where the initial impetus for rising prices comes from the supply side rather than increased demand. The subsequent worker responses, pushing for higher wages, are sometimes called second-round effects, indicating how the initial shock propagates through the economy. Another key concept here is the idea of anchored inflation expectations, where if people expect inflation to be temporary, they might not demand immediate wage increases, thus preventing the spiral from gaining momentum. However, if expectations become unanchored, believing inflation will persist, the spiral risk increases dramatically. Ultimately, grasping how supply shocks interact with wage dynamics provides you with a more sophisticated understanding of inflation, moving beyond simple definitions to the complex interplay of economic forces. It highlights the interconnectedness of global events, production costs, consumer prices, and labor market behavior, reinforcing the importance of stable economic conditions for overall prosperity and predictable living costs.